Hello everyone! Today we'll be diving into one of the most debated topics in Philippine history, the retraction of Jose Rizal. Did our national hero really take back his writings and beliefs before his execution? Or was it all just a fabrication? Join me as we uncover the truth behind this controversial issue. What is really the truth behind this controversy? The truth behind Rizal's retraction is one of the biggest controversies in Philippine history as Jose Rizal's alleged retraction. Did our national hero really take back his writings and belief before his execution? Or was the retraction document merely a fabrication? Some claim that Rizal signed a retraction, renounced his Masonic ties, and returned the Catholic faith, as the church record suggests. However, many historians doubt his arguing that the document was lost for years, and its authenticity remains questionable. Despite the ongoing debate, one thing is certain: Rizal died a patriot, dedicating his life to the Filipino people. Whether or not he retracted, his legacy of nationalism and resistance against oppressions remain unchanged. So, what do you believe? Did Rizal truly retract? Or was it just a historical deception? We can have a better understanding of the issue if we will look back at some of the developments of the life of Jose Rizal. First, Rizal's doubts on the Catholic Church. The publication of Rizal's two novels, The No Limitang Here and The Il Filibusterismo, made Rizal a target of the ire and persecution of the friars. Clearly, written on the pages of these two novels were Rizal's attack on the friars and practices of the Catholic Church. He was declared an excommunicado, which means that he was expelled from the Catholic Church, and thus he could not receive his sacraments. But Rizal was never cowed in his desire to expose what he believed were abusive practices of the religion which he was brought up to. One of his attacks on the Catholic Church was mirrored in a letter he sent to his friend Ferdinand Blumentritt, who like him was a liberal thinker. He wrote him "What happens in the Philippines is horrible. The friars abuse the name of religion to enrich their large landed estates, religion to seduce innocent young women, religion to do away with an enemy, religion to disturb the peace between husband and wife, if not sully the wife's honor."
Rizal expressed his doubts about the teaching to the Catholic Church on the salvation of mankind through Pilosopuntasio in the novel entitled No Limitang Here. And it is said that the Catholics are the only ones that can be saved, and of them only 5%, as many priests appear. And if the Catholics constitute but a 12th part of the world's population if the statistics to be believed. So the result will be that after thousands upon thousands of people had been punished during the countless ages that passed before the coming of the Redeemer, God's Son who died for us, only 5 out of every 1,200 souls could now be saved. Surely, that cannot be true. No, so colossal a calamity is impossible. To believe it is blasphemy. Expressing further the argument on man's salvation, Rizal speaking through Pilosopuntasio continued, and it said that man is not a necessary part of creation, but an accident of God could not have created him. To make one happy, he had to condemn to eternal misery hundreds of people in a moment, and all for some congenital faults. If such a belief were not a blasphemy against that God who must be the highest God, then the Phoenician Moloch, that bloody deity, that horrible divinity, who gorged himself on human victims and innocent blood, and in whose entrails babies torn from their mother's breast were burnt, would be beside him a frail maiden, a heart the mother of humanity. So in the No Limitang Here, Jose Rizal, through the character of Pilosopuntasio, criticizes the Catholic Church's teachings on salvation by arguing that the idea that only a small percentage of people, primarily Catholics, can be saved is unjust and blasphemous. Essentially, questioning God's mercy and love by suggesting that he would condemn the vast majority of humanity to internal suffering, even for congenital faults beyond their control. So Rizal's intention was not necessarily to attack the core tenets of Catholicism, but to expose the abuses committed by certain members of the Church, advocating for reform and more compassionate interpretation of religious doctrine. So by using Piloso Pontasio to voice this criticism, Rizal highlights the social and religious injustice experienced by Filipinos under the Spanish colonial rule, particularly the power wielded by the clergy and potential for religious manipulation. So that's all. Thank you.
Father Pablo Ramon, then of Ateneo de Municipal, and Father Federico Paura, a teacher of Rizal, tried to bring Rizal back to what to them was the right path. Although Rizal was respectful to these two priests, he bluntly told them that any attempt to discuss with him with anything that has something to do with religion was futile, since he no longer believed in the teaching of the Catholic Church. To Rizal, what has the two priests believed to be the right path was not the right path for him. Thus, as a result, their supreme efforts to persuade and convert the unfortunate fellow proved unavailing. Father Paura was hurt and angry. However, he was also worried. He was also worried about Rizal's safety if he stayed in the Philippines. He advised to him to leave the country for his own safety.
Pablo Pastrel, head of the suit, requested Father Antonio Ubag, parish priest of Tapitan, to accommodate Rizal in his mission house. If Rizal would like to stay with him, Father Ubag agreed. Colas wrote in his book. Strings were attached to the offer for Rizal if he stay in the mission house. First, Rizal must retract publicity in his error on religion. Second, he must observe the religion practices of the church and make a general avowal of his past. And he must conduct himself in an exemplary manner when it comes to religion and to Spain. Rizal did not agree with the conditions set forth by Father Otak. He considered himself as a heavy condition in exchange for his short stay and place for Father Obak.
The desire of Jesuits headed by Father Pastels to bring back Rizal to the fold of Catholic Church was too strong that he sent Father Francisco de Paula Sanchez, a former teacher of Rizal in Ateneo, to Dapitan. Colas looked at this mission for Father Sanchez as a way of trying to win a consent of the relapsed exile. So why did they choose Father Sanchez to carry out this mission? Colas said to this, if there was anyone capable of convincing Rizal, it was the Father Sanchez first, because Sanchez was not only a formidable master of rhetoric but also a dialects, and secondly, because Rizal was fond of him and would gladly give him the benefit of any doubt. But Father Sanchez was also a failure in his mission. Retana wrote that Rizal refused to believe the arguments of the Father Sanchez, but saying that he no longer believed in the Eucharistic and all of the Catholic faith. Capitan General Ricardo Camcero, who had become a good friend of Rizal, also failed in his attempt to bring back the faith of Rizal to the Catholic Church. Father Pastel therefore decided to the convincing of Rizal himself.
Father Pastel, according to Colas, was an erudite man, a finished scholar. Surely with his vast learning, Father Pastel should have no difficulty whatever in persuading Rizal to return to the fold and enjoy the inestimable treasure of faith. That started the exchanges of letters between Father Pastel and Rizal. Such exchanges of letters between the two lasted for 2 years, both of them presenting brilliant arguments on what they believe in. Colas wrote these exchanges of communication between the two. The two protagonists debated brilliantly with all eloquence of passion and the strength of conviction. Often the Jesuit drew heavily on his armory of faith and the Columban on his artillery of reason. Again, Father Pastel proved himself a failure in convincing Rizal to return to his faith. Colas described this intellectual encounter between the two as in a way like the physical duel between David and Goliath. As in the biblical story, the Filipino David with his sling of reason and his stone of logic vested, the religious Goliath with his heavy shining armor and spear of faith adorned with Latin quotation. Critic aside and clergy, including the number of foreigners, agreed that Rizal had a better part of argument.
Rizal was firm in this belief that there were abuses committed by the friars and that they did not preach the truth about Christianity and that the Filipinos were abused through the use of religions. The strength of Rizal's conviction was tested with the coming of Josephine Bracken to Dapitan. They fell in love with each other and Rizal wanted to marry her, but marriage was one of the sacraments which Rizal had been stripped of when he was excommunicated. He loved Josephine. He did not like to please her in a situation which she would be the subject of ridicule of people because she was living with a man without blessing of the church. Rizal made an appeal to Father Obak to marry them. However, Father Obak replied that they would only be married if Rizal would retract everything he said against the Catholic Church. Driven by his strong desires to marry Josephine, Rizal prepared his own instructions, versions, and sent it to the Father Obak, which the latter ignored. Those results decided to forget about his plan of marrying Josephine and did just live together as husband and wife. They lived together happily for 4 years, unmindful of the unkind words of the people and unceasing attacks of Father Obak done it in the pulpit.
The beginning of the retraction controversy. The retraction controversy of Rizal centers on whether he recanted his anti-Catholic beliefs before his 1896 execution. The core of the issue stems from a document said to be signed by Rizal, where he declared his return to the Catholic faith. This document's existence and authenticity have been intensely debated, with some believing it to be genuine, supported by accounts from certain religious figures, and others arguing it was a forgery, inconsistent with Rizal's lifelong convictions. This disagreement has persisted, creating a historical puzzle that continues to be examined by scholars. When and how did controversy on the retraction of Rizal start? The retraction issue started with the publication of Ritana claiming that he had the retraction document of Rizal. When this was published, Father P.O.P. came out with his own retraction document, which he claimed as the original. He said that the document was given to Archbishop Nozaleda for safekeeping. He had it published in an article entitled La Muerte Cristina del Rizal, which he claimed he published to prove that Ritana's document was not original. The issue became more confusing when Father Manuel Gracia revealed that he accidentally found the original retraction document among the files of the Archbishop, but his revelation came out after 4 decades of silence. Another priest, Father Francisco A. Ortiz, published an English document which he claimed as the original retraction of Rizal. This brought more confusion on the retraction issue.
3. Analyzing the retraction issue. Are the Jesuits telling the truth about the retraction document of Rizal? If it is true that they have an original retraction document, why did it take them so long before they revealed about it? Why did they not do it immediately after the execution of Rizal or even before he was executed? If Rizal really retracted, why did they allow his execution to push through? Why did they not do something to prevent it? They were claiming that Rizal returned to the fold of the Catholic faith. If it was true, why was Rizal buried in the most despicable manner? He was buried without a coffin. Rizal's name was entered in the list of those who died without repenting their sins. He retracted. Therefore, he repented for his sins. If he had sins from the point of view of the Catholic Church, why was his name included in the list? And why are there 3 versions of the retraction of the national hero? Which one is true? If he really retracted, let us take a look once again at the attempts to bring Rizal back to the Catholic Church. Padre Pablo Ramon Federico Faura, Padre Paula de Sanchez, and Padre Pablo Pastels, these priests had soft spots in the heart of Rizal. They all tried their best with their brilliant argument to convince him to go back to the right path. No one then succeeded. how come an ordinary priest in the person of Father Balaguer was able to convince Rizal to retract everything he had said against the church. In short, so time left before his execution, and what did Father Balaguer use in convincing to retract the simple threat of condemnation to hell?
Miguel de Unamuno, a Spaniard who was a classmate of Rizal in the Central University of Madrid, said that the authenticity of the retraction document which Father Balaguer claimed was done by Rizal was doubtful. He further said, one must read between the lines the stupidities and vulgarities with which Father Balaguer must have bludgeoned poor Rizal. In order to prove that Spanish friars at the time could resort to lies, Unamuno stressed, friars are generally recruited in Spain from among the coarsest, most uncouth, and most unpolished classes. Lobach wrote of the Rizal reaction. Father Balaguer did what Spanish friars did in his day, framed the story so as to discredit a Filipino, and incidentally to give himself a Spaniard credit for a marvelous conversion. A perusal of the three retraction documents is necessary to give the students of history a chance to make their own analysis of this controversial issue.
I declare myself a Catholic in this religion in which I was born and bred. I wish to live and die. I retract with all my heart whatever in my works, writings, publications, and conduct has been contrary to my characters as son of the Church. I profess and believe everything she teach, and I submit to whatever she commands. I abominate Masonry as a society condemned by the Church, as an enemy that it is of the Church, and as a society prohibited by the same Church. The diocesan prelate, as the superior ecclesiastical authority, may make public this spontaneous mind in order to repair the scandal that my acts might have case, in order that God and men may forgive me.
I declare myself a Catholic. In this religion, I wish I was born and bred. I wish to live and die. I regret with all my heart wherever in my words, writings, publication, and conduct has been contrary to my character. As a son of Catholic Church, I profess and I believe everything she teaches, and I submit wherever she commands. I abominate Masonry as an enemy, that is it, of the Church, and as a society prohibited by the same Church. By the diocesan prelate as a superior ecclesiastical authority can make public this spontaneous avowal of mine in order to repay the scandal that my acts may have caused, and so that God and men may forever me.